Hello, welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Spring is here and I can be outdoors making my videos. A continuation of Freemasonry and Satanism, Series 61, Part 2. A continuation of the Blue Lodge and Chapter Masonry book review, along with a alternate related book is the second part of this video, and a current events press release or report on the third part of these videos. So 3 exciting parts to try to understand what Freemasonry and Satanism, the title of this series, which I have said all along could be Illuminati, Rosicrucian, Kabbalah, Zionism, the Vatican, the Jesuits, Hollywood, the banksters, the kings and queens, all the elitists into the secret mystery schools. So I left off on page 29, I think, here. And we were talking about the philosophy of Freemasonry, its true symbolism to be rightly understood, and then it will be discovered that it is such a stupendous mass of infidelity and imposture that modern civilization never witnessed its equal. Make sure what Satan has in mind for the human race. If modern civilization never witnessed its equal. I wonder if ancient civilization has witnessed this equal. Atlanta, the sunken island, Lemuria, Egypt, the Roman civilization, throwing people into the arena with lions. That had to be pretty devastating if it was you tossed in the arena. Anyways, moving on to page 30. The deacons approach the senior warden's station, as in the second degree, whispers into his ear the pass of the master mason, which is Tubal Cain. Which Cain, if you know your Bible, you know Cain slew Abel, the first son of Adam and Eve, and then Satan, Sataniel, left Eve, abandoned her, according to the Rosicrucian material. And so God, in his compassionate ways, gave sent Adam, created Adam, to be with Eve, and then they had a second son after Cain, named Abel, and of course Cain slew Abel, and then Adam and Eve had a third son they called Seth. So apparently the lineage of human beings on the planet are from Eve and Cain, the first murderer, and Eve and Seth, which was of 2 humans, and of course Cain was from her, and Sataniel, which was a human, and a divine being, Satan. Read a Rosicrucian or look at my past videos, and we've talked about the Rosicrucian philosophy. So anyways, I just thought it was interesting that the password was Tubal Cain, which is supposed to be a descendant of Cain. Knowing where the story came from. Okay, moving on. Worshipful Master, Brother Senior Warden, it is my order that Keystone Lodge number 639 be now opened on the 3rd degree. And as I've mentioned before, whenever they do that, they seem to mention that 3 times. Significance of that, I'm not sure. Alright, and so we're talking about the 2nd degree. No, the penal sign of the Master Mason. Here we go. This is the penal sign and is an allusion to the penalty of the obligation of a Master Mason having his body severed in twain by bowels taken from thrice. So apparently they split your gut open and disembowel you, spill your bowels onto the ground. And you swear on a Bible like this, with the compass and the square on the Bible like that. And you swear on the Bible that if you divulge the secrets, you will have your body severed in twain. I guess severed in 3 pieces. Is that what twain is? My bowels then taken from thence. Okay, here's what the meeting room looks like. Notice the G and the sun in the background. The Master Mason up on the 3 steps. What goes on in those lodges? Why is it so secret that they have all these horrendous death penalties? Anyways, moving on, page 37. Masonry is a puzzle to 9/10 of the members. So Masonry is a puzzle to 9/10 of the members. Which, by the way, whenever I meet people and we talk about this, they usually get angry and say, well, my father was a Mason, my uncle was a Mason, my brother was a Mason. And I keep telling them the lower members are being deceived. They said that in this book on the last video. And it says right here on page 37, Masonry is a puzzle to 9/10 of the members. So little do they really understand about an institution which costs them so much valuable time and money, in which they have solemnly sworn, as they suppose, to maintain and support. Another marked feature of these opening ceremonies is the utter absurdity, the silly, senseless twaddle, and the stupid, miserable nonsense connected with the whole business. It's in this book. And this is precisely what keeps Masonry alive and causes it to flourish as it does. Because the great majority of people can scarcely believe that judges, lawyers, ministers, bishops, and shrewd and sensible businessmen will act so perfectly inconsistent and idiotic as to countenance for a single instant the endless repetition. Gotta answer the phone, or I don't make any money. Anyways, continuing on. Endless repetition and the ignorant, false, and incoherent verbiage of the Masonic ritual. That's what the author of this book says. Alright, page 39. The committee procure a Bible, square, and compass, and they, with the visiting brother, placing their right hands upon them, repeat the following oath, called by Masons the test oath. I, and then they say their name, of my own free will, in accord in the presence of Almighty God, and these witnesses, do hereby and hereon most solemnly swear that I have been regularly initiated as an entered apprentice, passed to the degree of fellowcraft, and raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason. That's degrees 1, 2, and 3. In a regular constituted lodge of Masons, and that I am not now under the sentence of suspension or expulsion, and know of no just reason why I should not hold Masonic fellowship with by brethren, so help me God. Moving on. I just highlighted stuff like I normally do. So if you really want to read the entire book, you can go on a used book site. I use Abe Used Books, and there are other ones. Just type in used books on the internet search and you'll get the sites that sell them. Alright, work. He also received the benefit of the lecture and paid the usual fee of $15. So when you get initiated, you have to pay money to listen to the lectures. Brother Stryber, being in waiting, was duly prepared, and passed to the degree of fellow craft. He also received the benefit of a lecture and paid the usual fee of $15. So it's a money-making operation to the lodges, besides having a whole assembly, I guess, of troops to do your bidding in every city and town across the nation. It's like a silent army of people if you swear to obey the master, most worshipful master of the lodge, who has to answer to his Grand Master, who has to answer to the Grand Master of the United States, who has to answer to the Grand Master of the world, whoever that is. I wonder if it's a Rothschild. Okay, moving on. Form of petition. The petition of the subscriber presents that, having long entertained a favorable opinion of your ancient institutions, he is desirous, if found worthy, I guess this is about how you obtain candidates to join the lodge, of being admitted a member thereof, and if admitted, he promises to a cheerful compliance with all the ancient usages and customs of the fraternity. He has not petitioned any other lodge for the degree of Masonry. And it says here he's recommended by brothers of his place of business, is the address. Residence, they give the address. And he's 34 years old. Benjamin is his name. Occupation is merchant. So they get some basic data on you if you join the lodge. The other is the petition in form of Mr. J.C. Wickers, who comes regularly recommended by brothers Rowanane, the author of this book, Anderson and Becker. His place of business is corner 4th Street and Milwaukee Avenue. Occupation that of a tailor, age 27. The usual fee of $5 accompanies each of these petitions to be heard to be accepted as a qualified to join the lodge and go for the degrees. Okay, moving on, page 46. Secretary. The ballot is due on the petition of Mr. Hunt for initiation, and on the application of Brother Schreiber for advancement to the 3rd degree. So this is the order of business when they're holding a lodge meeting, helping people progress through the degrees. And again, I may sound like I'm missing parts, but I'm only reading the highlighted portions. The committee consisting of brothers Anderson, Laurier, and Ross have all reported favorably. His age is 40 years. His occupation is minister of the gospel. His residence is X1091 Street. The white ball elects and the black ball it rejects. So they all vote in secrecy, and they have a white ball and a black ball. And if you get one black ball, you are rejected. Hence you are blackballed. And it goes on here. Have all the brethren voted? And it's the senior deacon now takes the ballot box, first to the junior warden in the south, and then to the senior warden in the west, each of whom examines the second compartment to see if any black balls are cast. There being no black balls, alright, and when a candidate is rejected, he cannot apply again for 1 year, nor can his petition be received in any other lodge without the unanimous consent of the one of which the application was first made. I have to get acclimated to my new video productions environment outdoors. Alright, moving on, page 50. Freemasons, we are informed in the textbooks of the lodge, are moral builders. It is said of them that a more noble and glorious purpose than squaring stone and hewing timbers is theirs. Fitting immortal nature for that spiritual temple, that house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. Skipping down. Now, all this being the case, it is not strangely inconsistent and even wicked on the part of the Masonic fraternity to exclude from their membership all their own female relatives, all their children, all old men and women, all deaf, dumb, and blind men, all cripples, all colored men, and even all poor men. Sun's starting to glare. Oh, anyways, if Freemasonry teaches me how to erect a spiritual temple in my heart, pure and spotless, why not allow my wife, mother, sister, and daughter to engage in the same grand and glorious work? Alright, if Masonry contains anything that would benefit the human family, then the human family ought to know it. If it will make mankind better and nobler, then mankind ought to have the benefit of it. And on the other hand, if it contains anything within itself that is injurious to society, if the principles which it inculcates and the laws which it enforces are in direct conflict with the laws of the church, the state, and the family, in a word, if Freemasonry is an oath-bound conspiracy of the initiated few against the many, then most unquestionably the general public ought to know what it is and in what that conspiracy consists. Wait till you see part 2 of this video and part 3, another book review and current events. These people are up to no good. The Georgia USA Guidestones in Georgia, USA say that they want to have a worldwide population of 500 million. And what do we got, 7 billion now? So 6.5 billion have to die. And there's sky spraying, threatening World War III, planetary bodies inbound, pole shifting, Ebola scares. I think they're pulling everything right out of the cupboard of ways to kill mass amounts of people. HARP systems, the dollar crash, food scarcities. Anyways, EMF pulses, you know, those weapons that can emit a big electronic pulse and take out all the electricity. For years, they say. The threats are endless these days. Meanwhile, we have the Masonic lodges ruling the world, as we will see continually in these other book reviews. This is where they recruit people for the high positions all over the world. So I suspect what they do in the lodge is they're looking for people who will go along. And those people advance up, and the rest of the people are basically just idiotic slaves, as it says in this book, and used to do things they know not what they do and take their money. A Masonic degree consists of 3 general parts, namely the opening, closing, and initiatory ceremonies. And these 3 always constitute what is commonly called the work of the order. So basically, whenever they have a Grand Lodge meeting, they have an opening, a closing, and in between an initiatory ceremony. So promoting people from 1st degree to 2nd, from 2nd to 3rd, and from 3rd all the way up to 32 degrees. The 33rd degree has to be bestowed on you by the Grand Lodge, I think, in Washington, D.C. And it's nothing you can apply for, you're hand-selected. Probably recommendation of a Grand Lodge that you are of the character to belong to one of the higher elitist groups like the Shiners. Alright, it's moving on here. Differences are so trifling and unimportant in themselves that a Mason, no matter where he hails from, unless through sheer ignorance and forgetfulness, can always make himself understood. We shall now go on with our illustrations, and then, as already stated, we shall exemplify the standard ritual and work of ancient craft masonry, as it is generally accepted and practiced among all the lodges in the country, and I might add, in the world. You've seen those New Age magazines I reviewed. Alright, page 54. As you have been elected by unanimous ballot to become a member of our fraternity, it becomes my duty to inform you that the institution of which you are about to become a member is of no light and trifling character, but of a high importance and due solemnity. Masonry consists of a course of ancient hieroglyphics, moral instructions taught agreeably to ancient usages by types, emblems, and allegoric figures. Even the ceremonies and gaining admission within these walls are emblematic of events which all mankind must sooner or later experience. That's pretty profound. There's rituals they're going through. It says here, all mankind must sooner or later experience. The New World Order, maybe? Satanism? They are emblematic, at least in some small degree, of your great and last change, of your exit from this world to the world to come. You are undoubtedly aware that whatever man may acquire on earth, whether wealth, honor, titles, or even his own merits, can never serve him as a passport to the grand lodge above. Wow. But previous to his gaining admission there, he must find himself poor and penniless, blind and naked, dependent on the will and pleasure of the Supreme Grand Master. And in order to impress this more deeply in your mind, it will be necessary that you be divested of a portion of your outward apparel. So what they do is he is divested of his coat, vest, pants, boots, stockings, drawers, even his underwear, necktie, collar, in fact, everything except his shirt. And he is then handed a pair of drawers, always furnished by the lodge, where he puts on. So he has to get naked, which I find a little suspicious. And then they give him a pair of old drawers they have. And the left leg of the drawers is rolled above the knee, so as to make the left foot, leg, and knee bare. The left sleeve of his shirt is raised above the elbow, so as to make the left arm bare, and the left breast of the shirt is tucked back, so as to make his left breast bare. Crazy. A slipper is put on his right foot with the heel shipshod. A hoodwink is fastened over his eye. That's a blindfold. But apparently they're hoodwinking this guy. A blue rope, which is called a cable tow, is put once around his neck, and he is then duly and truly prepared to be a Mason. That's what you have to do to prepare to be a Mason. The junior deacon now leads him to the door communicating to the lodge room. You will admit him, secretary. The worshipful master says, you will admit him, the secretary. An altar makes the due guard sign. And who comes here? Reverend James Hunt, who has long been in darkness and now seeks to be brought to light, and to receive a part in the rights and benefits of this worshipful lodge, erected to God and dedicated to the Saints John, as all brothers and fellows have done before. Mr. Hunt, is this of your own free will and accord? And Mr. Hunt says, it is. So one of the other videos I watched said there was no St. John's that were Masons. Okay, so then the rite of induction. The candidate is then conducted into the lodge room and halted about 6 to 8 feet from the door, where the senior deacon receives him on the point of a compass pressed to his naked left breast, addressing him in the following words, performs the shock of entrance, and the rite of induction as represented in the figure. So they put like this knife stabbing thing against the guy's naked chest. Blindfolded. Mr. Hunt, upon your first admission into the Lodge of Masons, I receive you upon the point of a sharp instrument, pressing your naked left breast. Here he presses the point of the compass against the left breast of the candidate, which is to teach you that this is an instrument of torture to your flesh. So should the recollection of it be to your conscience, should you ever presume to reveal any of the secrets of Freemasonry unlawfully. Well, that's enough of this book for today. I'll move on to my other book review and then the current events review. Well, welcome to another part of this video, a book review, a short book review on the Secrets of the Tomb, Skull and Bones, the Ivory League, and the Hidden Paths of Power, Alexander Robbins. And a little bit from the back of the book. This is a vivid insider's account of the archetype of an old boys club, whose members take care of each other in ways sometimes benignly, sometimes less so, we outsiders aren't allowed to see. There may be more to some accidents of history, who ended up working for whom and where, than we'll ever know. There may be more to some accidents of history. 9/11, killing of Kennedy, World War I, World War II, war between the states, Vietnam War, Korea War. There may be more to some accidents of history, who ended up working for whom and where, than we'll ever know. Seymour Hersh, author of The Dark Side of Camelot. So with that said, I'm just going to read a little bit, and it should make a point. You might want to get this book, read it if you have any doubts. Secrets of the Tomb. Alright, Secrets of the Tomb, Alexander Robbins. Here's a picture of the tomb. And published copyright 2002. Contents: The Legend of the Skull and Bones, Pomp and Circumstance, The Societal System, Inside Headquarters, The Initiation, The Secrets of the Skull and Bones, The Network, The Order. So here we go. I highlighted just the first part of a chapter here. This ought to be interesting. Sometimes in the early 1830s, so this New World Order conspiracy stuff goes way back. Albert Pike, in the late 1800s, wrote a letter to a friend in Europe detailing the required 3 world wars that would be required to bring about the New World Order. So in 1830s, a Yale student named William H. Russell, the future valedictorian of the class of 1833, traveled to Germany to study for a year. Russell came from an inordinary wealthy family that ran one of America's most despicable businesses of the 19th century, Russell and Company, an opium empire. Russell would later become a member of the Connecticut State Legislature, a general in the Connecticut National Guard. So if your family's running the opium empire, drug business, you can become a senator and a National Guard general. While in Germany, Russell befriended the leader of an insidious German secret society that hailed the Death's Head. That would be that skull and bones thing. The Death's Head as its logo. Russell soon became caught up in this group, itself a sinister outgrowth of the notorious 18th century society, the Illuminati. So this is all before World War II and Hitler. who was into the occult. When Russell returned to the United States, he found an atmosphere so anti-Masonic. So around the 1830s, the United States people and country was anti-Masonic. I wonder why that was so. That even his beloved Phi Beta Kappa, the Honor Society, had been unceremoniously stripped of its secrecy. Incensed, Russell rounded up a group of the most promising students in his class, including Alfonso Taft, future Secretary of War, Attorney General, Minister to Austria, Ambassador to Russia, and father of the future President William Howard Taft, and out of vengeance constructed the most powerful secret society in the United States has ever known. The men called their organization the Brotherhood of Death, or more informally, the Order of the Skull and Bones. So President George Bush Sr. and Jr. were members of the Skull and Bones at Yale, and its alternate name is the Brotherhood of Death. And they're thinking about Jeb Bush running against Hillary. The Brotherhood of Death. Stuff's just a little too outrageous. They worshipped the goddess Eulalia, celebrated pirates, and plotted an underground conspiracy to dominate the world, the New World Order. It's written right here. Go get the book. Fast forward 170 years, Skull and Bones has curled its tentacles into every corner of American society. This tiny club has set up networks that have thrust 3 members into the most powerful political position in the world, and the group's influence is only increasing. The 2004 presidential election might showcase the first time each ticket had been led by a bonesman. So that would have been Bush and Kerry, or... The secret society is now, as one historian admonishes, an international mafia, unregulated and all but unknown. Even Hillary speaks before the Heritage Foundation, which is another one of the secret organizations behind the scenes. The Carnegie Foundation, Ford Foundation, they all say they're for the good, helping the poor, benefiting humanity. But it seems to me from my research, and that could be the furthest thing from the truth, that they are. Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, Club of Rome, Bohemian Grove, where the presidents were photographed, where they have a ceremony, a satanic ritual with screaming and everything, screeching, where they throw a baby into the burning owl in a fire. Look that up. Bohemian Grove, Alex Jones, and you'll see the videos. Anyways, in its quest to create a new world order that restricts individual freedoms and places ultimate power solely in the hands of a small cult of wealthy, prominent families, Skull and Bones has already succeeded in infiltrating nearly every major research, policy, financial, media, government institution in the country. Skull and Bones, in fact, has been running the United States for years. And if you want to know why they're sky spraying us, is they are poisoning the soil, the water, in my opinion, and many others. Watch 2 videos. What in the world are they spraying? Why in the world are they spraying? And so the sky spraying seems to be a nefarious program to, 1, control the weather, either cause it to rain too much and spoil crops, or not rain enough and ruin the agricultural crops in certain areas, which destroys the economy. Putting the toxins in people, all kinds of testings, even biological, dried blood. It just seems to be an attack on the birds, bees, the animal, trees, fish, humans. You combine that with Fukushima, polluting the whole Pacific Ocean, fish dying everywhere. The sky spraying they did over the Gulf to dissolve the oil, spraying over the water in the Gulf during the Gulf oil spill, that ruined a whole economy there. So worldwide there seems to be an intent to economically take down the world, and slowly it's causing people worldwide to get poorer and poorer to reach a point of anarchy and chaos. They want to bring about the New World Order. So what do the skull and bones have to do with it? Let me continue and you will see. The society screens its candidates, carefully favoring Protestants and now white Catholics with the special affection for the children of the wealthy. Skull and Bones has been dominated by about 24 of the country's most prominent families: Bush, Bundy, Harriman, Lord, Phelps, Rockefeller, Taft, and Whitney among them, who are encouraged by the society to intermarry so that its power is consolidated. It's them against us, and they have decided, according to the United States Georgia Guidestones in Georgia, they say they want a population of 500 million, so 6.5 billion have to die maybe. Sky spraying come to mind. And in Australia, in the news, we'll go over this, the government's making it mandatory that every citizen has to get vaccinated. My question is, what the hell do they want to stick in people's bodies? And the governor stated he did not want his daughters to get the vaccination, but it would be required from everybody else. Them against us. In fact, Skull and Bones forces members to confess their entire sexual histories so that the club, as a eugenics overlord, there you go, can determine whether a new bonesman will be fit to mingle with the bloodlines of the powerful Skull and Bones dynasties. I'm not reading all of this. This first small chapter here I'm reading a lot. That'll be all I do. I think it's enough to make you decide if you want to believe what's in this book and go get the book and be astonished and shocked. They are sworn to silence and told they must forever deny that they are members of this organization. This stage of the juniors wrestle in the mud and are physically beaten. This is during their initiation. This stage of the ceremony represents their death to the world as they have known it. It's like Jesus dying and being resurrected. Instead, this is the people dying and being resurrected into the Skull and Bones, the brotherhood of death. Then they lie naked in coffins, masturbate, and reveal to the society their innermost sexual secrets. And again, I'm reminded of that I became someone sent me some information about over there in the UK. The pedophilia ring was busted. People were arrested. And upon further investigation, apparently it went so high in government that in the next news press release say they had to cease and desist and abort the investigation because the pedophilia ring, child sex, went so high in government it was a national security issue. Who are these people? They're also introduced to the Bones Whore, the tomb's only full-time resident, who helps ensure that the bonesmen leave the tomb more mature than when they entered. So they have a female living in the tomb who services the bonesmen, the brotherhood of death. My Lord, you can't make this stuff up. Page 5. Alright. Though they must tithe their estates to the society, each member is guaranteed financial security for life, In this way, Bones can ensure that no member will feel the need to sell the secrets of the society in order to make a living. And then they're destroying our economic system, as Alan Greenspan said before Congress during a hearing, that they were running a program called Creative Economic Destruction. So here they want to make sure all of us citizens lose our jobs and our homes, while they make sure that they get inside connections for jobs and money. Anyway, so that works. No one has ever publicly breathed a word about his Skull and Bones membership, ever. Bonesmen are automatically offered jobs in many investment banks and law firms dominated by their secret society brothers. They're also given exclusive access to the Skull and Bones Island, a lush retreat built for millionaires with a lavish mansion and a bevy of women at the members' disposal. A whole lot of women at their disposal. The influence of the cabal begins at Yale, where the Skull and Bones has appropriated university funds for its own use, leaving the school virtually impoverished. The Russell Trust Association owns nearly all of the university's real estate, as well as most of the land in Connecticut. Skull and Bones has controlled Yale's faculty and campus publications, so that students cannot speak openly about it. Year by year, the campus's only anti-society publication stated during its brief tenure in 1873, "The deadly evil is growing." You think it's growing? The Knights, as the student members are called, learn quickly that their allegiance to the society must supersede all else. Family, friendship, country, and God. They are taught that once they get out into the world, they are expected to reach positions of prominence so that they can further elevate the society's status and help promote the standing of their fellow bonesmen. That's a nice way to succeed in business and life. You got a whole group of insiders, which, by the way, there's a new press release about Snowden. Recently, this is April 28th, I just saw the video a little while ago, a bombshell press release that there is a secret establishment running America and probably the world. I suspect this has a lot to do with Snowden's bombshell press release information about the secret government behind the scenes, running the world, running the United States. But we already know that if you've been watching my videos. This purpose has driven bonesmen to ascend to the top levels of so many fields that, as one historian observes, at any one time the order can call on members in any area of American society to do what has to be done. Remember, they're having that exercise called Jade Helm 15 across the United States, half the country, where they're pretending to do martial law exercises and apprehend, arrest dissidents. They have videos showing these exercises with long chain of people, a bunch of people walking in a row with ropes tied behind their hands, tied together, being marched into white vans. Can't make this stuff up. Go look up Jade Helm 15. There is a bone cell in the CIA which uses the society as a recruiting ground because the members are so obviously adept at keeping secrets. Continuing on. Through the company, Skull and Bones provided financial backing to Adolf Hitler. And the senior Bushes were caught up in discovered that they were supporting Hitler and the Germans, and the Bush family almost got in a lot of trouble, but they managed to get from underneath the trouble, and I suspect it's again because they're probably connected to high places. Because the society then followed a Nazi and now follows a neo-Nazi, that's the New World Order. And if anybody remembers what Hitler was into, eugenics, and creating a new super race doctrine. At least a dozen bonesmen have been linked to the Federal Reserve, including the first chairman of the New York Federal Reserve. And remember, the Federal Reserve is not a federal institution, no more than Federal Express is. It's owned by the banksters who own the Bank of England and the Bank of Germany. The Illuminati, basically. Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Morgan Chases. Skull and Bones members control the wealth of the Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Ford families. It says it right there. I wasn't just making it up with Carnegie and Ford. And you could go on here for an hour naming these organizations, Rosicrucians, Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderbergers, trilateral groups. They got so many tentacles out there controlling everything. And apparently they have decided, as the U.S. Georgia Guidestones say, that they no longer need the mass population of people, and they intend to do away with them. Skull and Bones has also taken steps to control American media. 2 of its members founded the law firm that represents the New York Times. Plans for both Time and Newsweek magazines were hatched in the Skull and Bones tomb. In the 1880s, Skull and Bones created the American Historical Association, the American Psychological Association, and the American Economic Association, so that the society could ensure the history would be written under its terms and promote its objectives. And apparently, you know, with Rockefeller taking over the American Medical Association in the early 1900s, about 1910, 1920, and forcing fluoride on all the city, town water supplies to lower the IQ of American citizens, so they would be more docile and lethargic, basically slightly a zombie. They've done this across the whole nation. And of course then they brought TV, and then the Vietnam War with the drugs, all intentional. They were mass doping and mind controlling a whole nations of people. Those that they didn't kill, and how many scientists have been killed in the last couple years? I have a document on that. How many whistleblowers, witnesses, people who know too much were killed? How many astronomers were killed? The society then installed its own members as the presidents of these associations. So here's this arm of this tentacle, the Brotherhood of Death, assigning its members to just about any association position of leadership in the country and the world. And we know that they have an agenda of a new world order. Under the society's direction, Bonesmen developed and dropped the nuclear bomb, choreographed the Bay of Pigs invasion. Skull and Bones members had ties to Watergate and the Kennedy assassination at Delaney Plaza, which is a Scottish Rite location, Masonic Freemason. Everything is ritual. It's like the Eurovision, Europe's version of American Idol, where the winner of the Eurovision contest, the singer, was Conchita Wurst. Wurst means sausage, Conchita means a female part. You get it? Got it? And so Conchita Wurst had the head dressed up like Jesus. Look this up. And a body in a silky dress. Imagine Jesus with a body in a silky dress, singing the song Phoenix Rising, with the words that you can't stop us. And the last Super Bowl was played in Phoenix. Don't you think all this is connected? Alright, they control the Council of Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, so they can push their own political agenda, which is clearly satanic. And as we continue this investigation, number 61 on the Masonic handbook, we're dealing with Satanists, Lucifer worship. That can't be good. The society discriminates against minorities, fought for slavery. Indeed, 8 out of 12 Yale residential colleges are named for slave owners. while none are named for abolitionists. So they support slavery. Get it? New World Order? Microchipping everybody? Brotherhood of Death controlling the world? They are for slavery. Got a bee going by here. The society also encourages grave robbing. Deep within the bowels of the tomb are the stolen skulls of Apache Chief Geronimo, Pancho Villa, and former President Martin Van Buren. Anyways, this one lady was talking to a bonesman, and he said, "What bank do you have your checking account at?" The party asked me in the middle of a discussion of the mytheric aspects of the bones ritual. Mytheric is basically the religion, old ancient religion of the Roman Empire. So we will be examining that again and again, which it all seems applicable. I named the bank. "Ah," said the party, "there are 3 bonesmen on the board. You'll never have a line of credit again. They'll tap your phone. The source continued, "The Illuminati still care, don't laugh. They don't like you tampering and prying. The power of bones is incredible. They've got their hands on every level of power in the country. You'll see. It's like trying to look into the mafia." Moving on, this is the author speaking here. When I wrote an article about the Society for the Atlantic Monthly in May 2000, an older bonesman said to me, "If it's not portrayed positively, I'm sending a couple of my friends after you." He scolded me for writing the article. Writing that article was not an ethical or honorable way to make a decent living in journalism. And as we all know now, the journalists, nearly as there are probably any decent ones employed by these media newspaper establishments anymore. Anyways, it says here, then he got angry, and I'm skipping portions here. He screamed at me for a while about how dishonorable I was for writing the article. "A lot of people are very despondent over this," he yelled. 15 Yale juniors are very, very upset. "There are a lot of us at newspapers and at political journalism institutions," he coolly hissed. "Good luck with your career." And he slammed down the phone. Skull and Bones, particularly in recent years, has managed to pervade both popular and political culture. Like here in my town, they're having a new statue remodeled or refurbished. And it clearly says on the big plaque who made the donations. And the Freemasons are listed on there, and they're a very popular establishment in my town. And to think they worship Satan, the low-level people are all dupes, as they say in that Masonic handbook I'm going through. Anyways, moving on, in 1993, during Jeb Bush's Florida gubernatorial campaign, one of his constitutes asked him, "You're familiar with the Skull and Crossbones Society?" When Bush responded, "Yeah, I've heard about it," the constitute persisted, "Well, can you tell the people here what your family membership in that is? Isn't your aim to take control of the United States?" Anyways, that was less than a year after the Universal Pictures film introduced the secret society to a new demographic, perhaps uninitiated, into the doctrines of the modern-day conspiracy theory. Not long before the movie was previewed in theaters, and perhaps in anticipation of the election of George W. Bush, the latter was distributed to members from A letter was distributed to members of the Skull and Bones headquarters. In view of the political happenings in the barbarian world, that's what they think we are, barbarians, the memo read, "I feel compelled to remind all of the tradition of privacy and confidentiality essential to the well-being of our order, and strongly urge stout resistance to the seductions and bland banishments of the Fourth Estate." Whatever all that means. The story of the Skull and Bones is not just a story of remarkable secret society, but a remarkable society of secrets, some with basic and truth, some nothing but fog, Much of the way we understand the world of power involves a myriad assumptions of connections and control, of cause and effect, and of coincidence that surely cannot be coincidence. So, she did a good job on this book. It's got some pictures here. Brotherhood of Death. William H. Russell, founder, Skull and Bones. President George Bush, 1968, of the Skull and Bones. Prescott Bush, Skull and Bones. So that's Prescott Bush, George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr. It's a family dynasty. No wonder they want Jeb Bush to be the next president. These people have no idea of reality. They really believe that their god, Lucifer, the devil, and they are more select and divine than the rest of us. Alright, that's enough of this book. Go get the book. Let's give credit where credit is due here. I don't want to be reading the book. It's copyrighted. But I think it's probably, if you really don't believe what's going on, you probably should get it. Well, now to part 3, current events. And tying this in with the first part of this video and the book review of the Skull and Bones, this edition or part of this video should be quite interesting, to put it mildly. So if Fukushima kills the oceans and geoengineering kills the trees, what happens to us? Dane Wigington is being cited here. The guy says Horse 237 is the posting. I once said a minimum of 10 million Americans will starve to death when this depression goes really big. And we know that they're controlling everything, so when the depression happens, like the previous depressions, they will have done it. Be assured on that. It'll be intentional. I have also written about Fukushima chemtrails, GMO, gene splicing, and other disasters. Today I have to say I agree with Dane Wigington, who said the Earth is being systematically rendered inhospitable to human life. Georgia, USA Guidestones, they want to reduce the population. It's etched in stone. You can go out there to North Georgia and look at them and take a picture. I did. You can look them up on the internet. We will be gone in 25 years if we do not stop this insanity imposed on us from those in authority. Wigington once took a group of congressional staffers and government scientists to view a dying forest. They all chose to deny what their eyes saw rather than risk losing their jobs. I gotta tell you, I've stood face to face with a friend of mine, numerous times, different friends, and pointed up and said, look at that sky spring. And they would refuse to tilt their heads up, look at it, discuss it, acknowledge it. They got angry at me and told me to shut up. They didn't care. They said they didn't care. Alright. So they all had to deny what their eyes saw rather than risk losing their jobs. HAARP is an ionospheric heater, H-A-A-R-P, 2 A's. By design, it heats and raises the ionosphere. It is letting more ultraviolet light onto the surface of the Earth. Wigington cites the increase in ultraviolet rays, including more dangerous UV, B, and C rays, as one reason for the devastation of our forest. Dane Wigington made a video about the dying of trees. The forest in his video had 40 inches of rain in the past months. There is a drought in many areas of the west coast of the U.S., which was created by HAARP. After the March 11, 2011 earthquake and subsequent nuclear plant meltdown, HAARP is an array of radio transmitters. Its energy can be focused in one area to create an atmospheric high to steer weather. 20 million tons of particles are sprayed annually as part of a chemtrail program. In the U.S., they are spraying aluminum, barium, strontium oxide. These particles are dissectants and dry out the area of the ground nearby. These minerals make fires burn more intensely. They are 10 nanometers in diameter and go right past the body's defenses into the lungs and then the blood to deposit in human tissue and brain with bad consequences of our health. In 2010, 1,000 whales died in remote areas. They all had high doses of aluminum in their tissue. Respiratory deaths in America rose from the 8th leading cause of death in 2005 to the 3rd in 2010. Oh, guess that aluminum they're dumping in strontium and barium is dangerous. From 8th to 3rd. California stopped testing for aluminum in the water in 2002. Why would they do that? Probably have some of the bonesmen in charge of everything. Fukushima and depleted uranium were contributing factors to the death of plankton, the fish, and sea mammals. The federal government just recently had to close fish canneries on the west coast because of the sardine population had declined 91%. Some species of fish have declined 95%. It said on one beach that for miles and miles all the starfish died almost overnight in the press release recently. The combined act of Fukushima and the HAARP against plant life in the oceans have reduced our oxygen. Half of our oxygen comes from the plants in the ocean. If the oceans die, we die. Chemtrails deposit aluminum, barium, and strontium on the ground. They kill soil microbes the plants need. They cause fungal issues. Plants and trees produce the other half of our oxygen. We're losing 200 species a day of plants, and 70% is due to fungal issues. It is the same as in the human body. Kill the beneficial microbes and watch health degrade. German and Norwegian researchers have recently found fluoride in their last 60 chemtrail tests. So they got chemtrails over there in Germany and Norwegian. They found fluoride in 60 chemtrail tests. Maybe the Europeans need to increase fluoride levels to lower IQs and sedate their voters. Like I said, the fluoride in the water, proven by a Harvard study, gives the children who drink that water lower IQs versus areas where they don't put it in the water. The communists used fluoride to control the behavior of inmates in the Soviet gulags. Edward Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, was the founding father of public relations. He persuaded Americans to add fluoride to their water. Fluoride has been known to be an enzyme poison since 1893. The human body has 500 named enzymes necessary for its health. So if the fluoride kills the enzymes, and you need them for your health, you're not going to be healthy. And then you got companies like Monsanto is profiting from all this geoengineering by developing drought and aluminum resistant seeds. And by the way, I mentioned it all the times, the irony of it, but Monsanto, M-O-N-S-A-N-T-O, in a 666 calculator you can find online, equals 666. Which is interesting, because I thought about the KKK, the Ku Klux Klans, and K is the 11th letter in the alphabet, so times 6 is 66. So KKK would be 6666666. Little double evil there. Eric Schmidt, CEO for Google, 666 and the 666 calculator. So this occult stuff, the secret society schools of the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Skull and Bones, the satanic references are everywhere. They like to show it in our face, like that Cochito Wurst Eurovision contest. Alright, the U.S. is very near destruction from half a dozen or more earthquake-induced Fukushima-style meltdowns. Environmentalists are absent from the war to defend the earth and humanity from corporate interest. So many cowards out there. So many people who are bought off. Who, like the people who I try to point out the sky spraying, won't even tilt their head up. What is with that? They're afraid to even look up. And if you try to discuss anything of the political nature, not like the insanity of Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton, they don't want to discuss that either. They must be having too much fluoride in their brains. Southern California could experience an earthquake swarm. 20 million people could find themselves without homes, water, food, roads, and electricity, sewers, and hospitals. There are 2 nuclear power plants in the area that could melt down, even though one is being decommissioned. It is still hazardous until completed. There are from 6 to 12 nuclear power plants in the area of the New Madrid earthquake zone near the Mississippi River, which could melt down. And there's supposed to be a huge fault there. Why they would ever build nuclear power plants on faults, it's almost as if somebody intentionally did that, anticipating a future event to cause the reduction of the population. Meanwhile, as we've discussed in my previous videos, the government has built many underground cities. I think Phil Schneider said 130 before he died. The U.S. has more than 300 miles of natural gas pipelines and 150 miles of crude oil and gasoline pipelines. Oh my, if we had a swarm of earthquakes, that would be a disaster. The New Madrid fault line is in the center of America, is near to most oil and natural gas production. Nuclear power plants could fall into the Mississippi River or one of the tributaries. This would be far worse than the Fukushima, as the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Oceans would become radioactive toxic. Wow, then if they killed everything in the Atlantic, like they've killed everything in the Pacific, half of the oxygen comes from the oceans. I guess we would lose half of our oxygen supply. I have good reason to believe the U.S. federal government is sitting on Tesla technology, which could offer a cheap alternative to sources of energy to nuclear power. But as we already know, the Brotherhood of Death, Skull and Bones, is in charge of everything. And they don't call it a Brotherhood of Death for nothing. Alright, I'm not going to really read too many of these comments. One guy says here, GMO ticking time bomb, that's genetically modified organ foods. The bankers want you sterilized and then dead. Let's see here. Any other comments? UVB radiation is off the charts. Metering proves this fact. Geoengineering and the dying of trees. Decided to do more than one current events because there were just some issues that are just too pressing. Australia. Everyone must get vaccinated except the Prime Minister's daughters. What do you want to bet he's not a Mason? Australia, everybody must get vaccinated except the Prime Minister's daughters. 2006, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott refused to vaccinate his daughters. Meet vaccine refuser, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott. We're talking about Tony Abbott, who just ruled from on high that there are no more exceptions from vaccines in Australia. How the heck can these people, where do they give them the authority, the legal right, to force every human being in that country to get a vaccine, which who knows what's in it. Need we be reminded of the USA Georgia Guidestones? No more conscientious objections, no more religious exemptions, only the rare medical exemption permitted by a doctor. And suddenly, every family who refuses vaccinations for their children will lose up to $15,000 per year per child in federal support money. Tony has officially ripped every citizen's right to choose. Australia is now officially a medical police state. Well, it says here, back in 2006, Tony was singing a very different tune concerning his daughters. Abbott rules out cancer vaccine for his daughters. So they're calling it a cancer vaccine. It's going to be required by everybody. Tony was saying he wouldn't have his daughters vaccinated with the HPV shot because there was no national program for it. That's like saying if the supermarket doesn't sell cherries, I won't let my daughter eat them. So my point is, a few comments in this vaccine issue. I have had discussions with people about the health system, and they just put up walls, not interested in hearing about the facts. Some have become downright bloody nasty and have insulted me. I'd say that this is a common occurrence amongst people who speak the truth, sadly. Like I said, I've experienced that almost everywhere I go. There's hardly anybody I can talk to about reality, truth. They become, like this says here, bloody nasty and have insulted me. Another one here, Country Mum says, I've been talking with my husband about the chemtrails. This is Australia. They are really obvious here in central north-southwest, but no one ever mentions a thing. It's got to be the point that I just don't know how it is possible for people to still be so blind when there is such an obvious agenda. I'm just hoping our plans to homeschool my 2 children will keep us out of trouble for a bit longer. This country has gone mad. At least America has their militias. At least some people in America can see through the mainstream news. Vaccination is a barbarous practice. It is one of the most fatal of all the delusions current in our time, not to be found even among the so-called savage races of the world. Its supporters are not content with its adoption by those who have no objection to it, but seek to impose it with the aid of penal laws and rigorous punishments on all people alike. Next step will be to ensure that those suffering from colds are not allowed to leave their homes, stiff fines for all those found sneezing in public places, and endangering others in the workplace. We need protection from these selfish people. Plenty of babies and elderly out there. They should be prepared to lose a few days' pay for the sake of the herd. So there you have it. The vaccination issue here in the United States is becoming just as vicious. Just like in the UK, every child had to have an MMR, but Tony Blair refused to state whether his son had been vaccinated. You can bet that these Skull and Bones, Freemason, all these insiders, Illuminati, Zionists, they're not going to put this death vaccination on their kids. The Bible says all flesh will not survive. I would find the word flesh curious to use. Will mankind kill itself because of a virus everyone will carry and spread to animals too? Will we become zombies and rabid animals? Seems to me it might be true. If they want everyone to take the vaccine, is this the mark of the beast? So go look up this document. When I tell you this stuff, find it. I don't want to read all these comments, but I expect people to do their homework. Hit pause, write that down, look it up. And it gets worse. Got another document here. Jeb Bush praises Obama over NSA spying. We're talking about a family here, dynasty, into the brotherhood of death. Okay, so he lauded the Obama for refusing to buckle under pressure from civil liberties groups. Jeb Bush, a likely presidential contender, said Tuesday that President Obama's greatest accomplishment was keeping in place controversial spying programs at the National Security Agency. I would say the best part of the Obama administration would be his continuance of the protections of the homeland, using the big metadata programs, Bush said in an interview on the Michael Medvedev radio show, MEDVED. Bush argued the NSA programs had been enhanced under Obama, even if the president never defends them or openly admits them. Obama is a Freemason, by the way, I've been led to understand and believe. The former Florida governor said the NSA's bulk collection of American phone data was an important service carried out in a way that protects individual civil liberties. I'd like to know, if they monitor every phone call and everything else, they know everybody that you're connected to, they know everywhere you go, so I suppose they could computerize anybody that discusses stuff like this. That's anybody that's not a zombie and following the satanic party line can be pretty easily picked up by computer software. You go to church, they're going to know it. You're immediately a red dot. Red dots won't survive. He lauded the Obama administration for refusing to buckle under pressure from Democrats, several liberty groups, and some Republicans. He has not abandoned them, Bush said. Critics of the NSA program say there's a massive affront to individual privacy, while defenders say they are critical to and uncovering and combating terrorism, and pretty soon vets returning from foreign wars, retired vets, Christians, people who don't want to take the vaccinations, people who are aware of the sky spraying. They'll need to have all this massive spying programs to uncover and find us. And he got some comments here. It's pretty clear, really. A rhino candidates, Republican name only. Members of Congress and Senate have been erasing the line between Republicans and Democrats for quite a while. Continuing on with the comments. I think the comments are important. People need to know what other people are thinking and saying. We don't want another Bush. He'll be a disaster just like his father and brother. These liars get off while lying to everyone. Then after they're elected through fraudulent voting, in which they don't even use your total votes, then they get off again while they do the opposite of what they promised when elected or placed in office. That's what Lucifer's followers do. It's interesting he mentions Lucifer and Satan, and we know this video is Freemasonry and Satanism, and we're doing a book review on the Masonic handbooks, and then we did the one review on this video about the skull and bones. And see, get them out of office while you still can. Time is short. You can still get on a better path by removing these liars and replacing them with the most good, honest, selfless people possible. All the family New World Order puppets. The only terrorists are in the government and the government-funded terrorists, like Bush, Clinton, and Obama. They are all traitors and domestic enemies. Pretty much we all know that all the people that are in the Senate and the House of Representatives, even on the Supreme Court, it's just family names and dynasties over and over, and they think very little of the common people. Republicans and Democrats are all part of the same party behind the scenes. I've been saying that. They put on a show for us to give us an illusion of choice, to make us think we live in a true democracy. We don't, and we haven't for a long time. Right wing, left wing, same bird, and it ain't an eagle. It's a double-headed phoenix sent to pick your bones free of meat. A phoenix is a very occultic symbol. It's rising from the ashes, the bird. He's a secret society just like all the rest. He'll never get elected. Most people with half a brain in their heads can see right through his lies. If the Republicans are stupid enough to give him the nomination for president, they'll lose yet again. Jeb comes from a long line of freedom haters. I've always wanted to read that book out there called The Face of Evil, The Bush Crime Family Exposed. I like this one here because on the last video we did this. An even better researched book is Family of Secrets. Meticulous investigation and well written. My first video on this series, 61, had that book. So there we go on that. Be right back. Alright, I'd like to finish it up with one last document I thought was important. Deagle.com issues new update showing 254 million Americans living here now will not be here by 2025. So this is 2015. That's 10 years from now. Depopulation agenda in full swing. Go look this stuff up, don't believe me. Deagle.com, the mysterious website that predicted a 78% lower U.S. population by the year 2025 than now, has suddenly lowered its population forecast for the U.S. in 2025 by another 4 million, bringing the total number of Americans who are here now but not expected to be here in 10 years to 254 million people. I guess dead. While there were 319 Americans in Deagle's 2014 numbers, they expect there to be 65 million people living in America in 2025, down from a prediction of 69 million living in the U.S. made last year. Nearly 80% less people than living in the country today, leading to the question of the day, how will all these people disappear? Is the depopulation agenda warned by Watchmen real? Does Jade Helm and the economic collapse preparation taking place nationwide tie into the expected catastrophic drop in U.S. population? Deagle themselves warned of a catastrophic die-off in the U.S. Pause it and read it. The collapse of the Western financial system will wipe out the standard of living of its population. All News Pipeline first brought you Deagle back in 2014. In Deagle's latest forecast, the population for Japan is expected to drop from 127 million to 46 million. Germany forecast population drops from 81 million to 48 million, while the average GDP per capita is now 54,000 a year. They expect it to be 13,000 by 2025, 10 years from now. The average income will be 13,000 from 54. And they have these charts. Will World War III in America lead to depopulation levels expected by Deagle by 2025? In the new Hagman and Hagman report, they talk about the road to World War III that we now travel down. Will Americans simply be disappeared, one by one, if not en masse, taken away CIA style, black sites that are located at the end of Walmart underground tunnels? So anyways, this Deagle thing has a website like this. I did go to Deagle.com and look at this. It's there. You can see it yourself. I got all the stats, what we have now and what we're going to have then. Here's 2012. So with the Masonic Blue Handbook and the Skull and Bones Brotherhood of Death, people running the world, sky spraying going on, vaccines being forced on people. Okay, I'll read a couple comments and we'll be done with this video. And some group here on this planet plan to depopulate by 95%, so it does not surprise me to see this article. That would be the Georgia USA Guidestones, which are signed R.C. Crucian, Rosie Crucians, which are another occultic group. Some say more insidious than the Freemasons. These folks have ties to the Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller knows depopulation. Again, that's the Illuminati. This plan to depopulate the world can be found documented in several locations like the Georgia Guidestones, Protocols of Zion, Report from Iron Mountain, and others. This gives Americans a very short window to identify and stop exactly how they plan this massive reduction. Some of the possibilities are nuclear war, social unrest, revolution in America, chemical, biological attacks, natural disasters, and passing of a 10th planet, disease, plagues, Ebola, so forth and so forth. Any of these are potential causes for mass population reduction, and the ones that know exactly what is being planned have been gagged and will not speak for fear of their lives, and rightfully so, as they have quite openly demonstrated that they will kill people to silence them. The only logical prevention for mass genocide is for all people of America to stand against the machine and physically take back our nation from the globalist criminal cabal. Leave me alone, B. Alright, the problem with a march, if we have 5 million march on DC, is that they will all leave and go to their bunker and claim an insurgency. These people will go to any length to protect their power, including nuking DC and the 5 million marchers. This I have no doubt about. They already have planned it. Another comment here. A long nationwide power outage would destroy the economy and the grocery stores would be empty. Thought about that quite a bit. You know, you got food in your freezer and milk and stuff like that. Without any electricity, people need to rethink how they're going to survive if something's going to happen. If something did happen. When people have lost everything and are hungry, violence and death will surely occur. Some who have a plan and have prepared will have a chance to survive. I sold my house in the big city and moved into the country. What are you doing? I don't think it makes sense that a depopulation agenda works here, because it would be very difficult for the government to kill off that many people, even if a civil war broke out. With all the way they're sky spraying and everything, I don't agree with that. When considering the economy as a farce, running on the dollar that's not worth the paper it's printed on, it's most likely a collapse scenario. something like an elite one world order thing that Bill Gates and his depopulation cronies would be. So there you have it. Video number 2 in the series 61 Freemasonry and Satanism, the Blue Lodge Freemasonry Handbook, and then of course supporting another book that we reviewed and some current events documents, because there's so many of them coming out lately. I thought I would add those to the back part of these videos. So look for video number 3 coming soon. Thank you for watching my videos. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. Leave a comment, supporting data, help me out. Anything I made an obvious mistake, say so. I'll look into it, correct it. Rick Miracle reporting.